Most people who know me, I'm listening to music non-stop. In my office, there's always music playing. The moment I wake up, or if I wake up in the night to get back to sleep, I put music on. So music is always with me, and it's been a very, very wonderful guiding line. And I think music will still continue to inspire me. I can't live without it, I just can't. Even though sometimes people say, don't you want to have some silence or some quietness? They don't happen very often, but when I'm in the mountains, I get my quietness. I'm glad you didn't put me in the wheelchair. It's not the first time I haven't been called Richard Wheelchair, I'll tell you that. Should we just go with the music and see what happens? I think it's probably the best way. I've got a wonderful group of dancers who've really applied themselves.
He's very caring about the well-being of his people, of his team.
He tries to be for the 30 dancers now, the 24 we were in the past. He's there. In one way or the other.
He's really super passionate about the ballet company, the dancers especially.
I could actually start with a new company, and that was basically 22 years ago. 4 intendants later, I was still here.
He's commissioned some amazing work here. I find it amazing that Basel embraces all the different choreography that he does, and he does something in the Kleine Bühne or in the Schauspielhaus or in the theatre. It's always got some passion to it,
It's always been my thing within Basel to mix the public as much as possible.
We went from doing Kilian to Hofesh.
My main aim was to get as many different type of choreographers in to work with this group, where they would challenge the dancers and challenge the public. And Basel gave me that chance. The country of milk and honey, the country of cheese, the country of finance, the country of openness and yodeling. Does everybody yodel with each other? Not necessarily. But that's what brought me to the idea of doing the subject of Heidi, almost to repay myself back, saying thank you to Switzerland, thank you for giving me the chances to do what I'm doing and what I've been allowed to do, and this is my little giving back of Heidi, the ballet. Then they're really going back. That's it. Then you come in. That's it. Heidi, you be from here. You touch. Ladies, beautiful work. Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you. The moment you say to anybody, "Oh, I'm doing a ballet about Heidi," everybody laughed. I thought that was actually quite a good sign, but at the same time I realised it's actually a bit like dealing with the Holy Grail. It's a bit like this is Switzerland's book, and be very, very careful how you tamper with it. And she's this catalyst that brings actually people at the end, people together to share a real form of goodness. And in actual fact, being a rather positive person myself, it seemed quite a good adaptation to take.
Fun. Always fun.
Cheeky. He's very cheeky.
Positive. Always seeing the bright side of things.
He's always fighting for positive vibes.
Morning, Rita. Just stay with the auntie and Heidi, just to sort out the beginning bit. She's lost her parents, and so her aunt is taking care of her, and decides that because she has enough on her plate and she wants to go to the big city, she's passing her off to the grandfather. And the grandfather doesn't have a particularly good name amongst the villagers of the mountainside, and he tries to push her away. But over a period of time, the more that he realizes that she's a very, very nice young girl who has not want to bring any problems or anything, the more his love grows for her. And the moment that Heidi is then taken away to the big city, he suddenly grieves and he realizes that in actual fact his loneliness had been cured. Would you like to have a go in the hay? She also meets a young man called Peter, who's the goat herder, who is also very, very much full of youth. He's very, very proud of his goats. He's very, very proud of the mountains. He loves it there. Very inexperienced with relationships. And he also, not directly at the beginning, falls for Heidi. She becomes also quite fond of him, but nothing too deep yet. The aunt comes back and decides to take her to the big city. And everything's busy, everything's sort of like going left, right and centre. Where she could be placed into a family where she would be a comrade of a young lady called Clara, who unfortunately has lost the use of her legs and is in a wheelchair. And so Clara is excited to have somebody around, and somebody who's a country bumpkin. And within the household, you have a governess who really is quite strict and tries to discipline her. And of course, Heidi doesn't want anything of this and is quite rebellious, but at the same time is trying to show appreciation for that she's being taken care of. Clara has a father who's very absentee, is not very much around. And he also has a mother, who's the grandmother, and they both actually quite fall within a good friendship with Heidi, and they see the positive sides. But they're kind of influenced by the governess, and she is trying to persuade them that she can't stay here. This girl should not stay here. The young, athletic, dynamic choreographer, working with speed and dynamics and acrobatics. If I look at myself now, that's obviously at the age of coming nearly to 64, that doesn't quite work.
Quick, a lot of arms, sometimes risky movements.
He just listens to the music and starts moving. It takes a lot from the dancers also.
Because I'm not physically able to do what I used to do 30 years ago, or even 10 years ago. I can instigate something, and now at the point where with the company that those people can pick up, dancers can pick up on the instigation of a movement.
He likes when people propose things, and because it flows better.
That's the nice thing about leading a company, but not being the leading choreographer of the company, is that you can rely upon, especially now as we've been in such a short time of rehearsal, is that you suggest a movement and then people take that as an insignia, so like to start with it, so it's like a starting point. Reach, and then she's there. Split. That's a very nice way of working, and I think not to be somebody who just insists it's like this, and to have the openness to actually say, you know, actually I'm not quite sure if that's good or if that's not good or is that bad. Make me an offer around that area.
He always remembers the steps. You think he's like, yeah, it's fine, but he always remembers the steps.
Sometimes it looks like I'm showing off because I try and dance everybody's role. I try and think, okay, now I'm Heidi, then I'll be this one. It's not, but I just feel that that's the only way I can get into it, by saying, okay, now I'm Peter.
And his mind is going 2,000 miles an hour, so he wants to go on, but yeah, sometimes you have to just hold back for a second, make sure that it can be done. And if I see, okay, it's messy, but it's gonna work when it's cleaned, then it's okay. That's where I try to help.
Sorry, that's it, to reach to that leg, that's it, and then there you go. I remember it also as being when I used to audition people, I used to jump around like crazy. Now it's a much more sedate thing of asking people to show what they can do.
He never forgot what it's like to be a dancer, and I think that's why he decided to be a director, and I think that's why he lasted so long as a director.
For me, there is nothing more beautiful that someone sees you as who you are, as an artist, and gives you the chance.
She can stand on that as if she's standing on the wheelchair to get up there. That's pretty good. Clara could even turn to the side.
And
I don't think he's ever come to me with a boring idea. Out of doing Empty Thrones, which was a sort of story about the kings of England for 100 years, he suddenly had this great idea. We're going to do Heidi, which is a sort of quintessentially Swiss story, you know.
I work together with Bruce, who's not only a great artist and painter and sculptor, he's also a very, very, very close friend of mine. Over working together for nearly 12 years, we have a great, wonderful relationship. And we usually start off with about 2 bottles of
wine, laughing our heads off at something, you know.
And start throwing ideas around, and usually starts with a serviette. We start working with a serviette, cut it up and everything.
And we made shapes with the cutout pieces of paper.
Anyway, this time we came to the idea that we just wanted to work with representative objects.
We wanted to have it so that it has 2 different textures. One represents the Swiss mountains and one represents the interiors of a house. Our biggest problem was how we were going to move these settings from one scene to another without using the stage crew, so everything has to be done by the dancers.
Everything went reasonably quite well, especially on your behalf. Dancing looks absolutely stupendous. The movement of the stage is actually really very, very special. It's not something I actually imagined, but it also looks like part of the whole piece now. The whole architecture, the way that it moves, excellent.
He wanted to prove that it's possible to be a director and at the same time be a human being.
One of my mates was also doing costumes, another one would do the lighting and stuff like that. And we sort of sat down and I said, oh God, I couldn't do that. I couldn't become a director. I'm not the right material. And they said, but do you know what it means? It means that you would actually have just getting the people together who you would like to work with and probably get the best results out of having a group together. But then out of the blue, then they offered me to go to this first directorship that I had, and I was like, okay, all right. I knew nothing. No thoughts about understanding free days, salaries, how to organize, how to put the rehearsal schedules together, nothing, this, that, and the other. So I had to learn really on the spot. And actually, I'm not a natural director at all, because I'm not really particularly super duperly organized. I'm a bit sort of like chaotic in a certain way. So that's why I had to find people around me who were very organized and very sort of like on the ball.
What I try to do is to try to make sense of what is in his mind. Rich is organized in his own messy way, but after a long time working with him, I kind of understand what he wants, and I try to make it clear for everyone.
He wants to make everyone happy, like a father from a big family, which I can relate now being a mom, that you always want that your kids are happy and they feel safe.
There have been some fantastic dancers that have passed through and still here, so that's great.
There's been births, there's been deaths, there's been people leaving, there's been disasters, there's been joy, you know, it's been a real experience working together.
Also people who didn't know each other. They came to this place to work and now they know each other very well to the extent where they have marriage, they have children together. That's something that's really very, very beautiful to observe. Having my own kids and everything as well, that's great. But it's like I've got a family of hundreds.
Rent a crowd. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
And somebody asked me in an interview the other day, they said, and how are you going to leave? And I said, nice and quiet.